Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. Today I'm sharing a fun Z-fold card using the newly launched Waves of the Ocean collection. The Waves of the Ocean is available from 1st March up until the 2nd of May. The collection you can order from just this number here. It will be on the online web store and it will include the stamp set, the papers, the foils, the dies, as well as the gemstones. This is the stamp set and these are the dies. So we're going to be using the pelican one, the birds. We're not going to be using that, it's just that I stamped it crooked, so I just did a quick fix by die cutting one in a label and then trimming it to fit in this panel here. So we might use it, we might not, it depends if I stamp straight or not. Then there's the cloud dies, the two clouds, the cloud outlines, and of course the waves dies. The collection, there are the Waves of the Ocean Designer Series paper, and these have been hand poured paint. I've cut these down to 6x6 so that you can see it better. They're absolutely gorgeous. That's the reverse, and I think the inks in it are Night of Navy, Pacific Point, Coastal Cabana, Granny Apple Green, Calypso Coral, Petal Pink, Daffodil Delight. I think that's it. I think on the card I used this sheet here, which has a hint of Granny Apple Green. Both sides are so pretty, it's hard to choose which one to use. Also in the collection are these blue foil specialty paper. It comes in 3 colours, 2 sheets each in silver, like Coastal Cabana, and that looks like Pacific Point. So there's 2 sheets of that, 2 sheets of this, and 2 sheets of the silver. The other item in the collection are the Rhinestone Waves Basic Jewels, and they come in different hues to complement the papers. I think that's Pacific Point, Coastal Cabana here, Granny Apple Green, don't know what that is, Balmy Blue. The inks I used are Coastal Cabana, Pacific Point and Basic Grey. I also used some stamping blends to colour the pelican, just a beak and around his eyes. So that's Calypso Coral. I actually used So Saffron and not Daffodil Delight. And I think that's Smoky Slate. I always try to be economical with the foils because there's not very much of it. So I only cut out what I need. And to cut the wave, I need a piece 2 3/4 inches by 6 inches, and it's best to use an adhesive sheet with it because it will make it easier to glue onto the card. So we'll be using those as well. We also need some scraps of white paper to die cut the clouds, and I've already done that to save time. So you'll need 1 large cloud and 2 smaller clouds, and these are the accent pieces for the clouds, so 1 of those and 2 of these. Then we want a pair of birds in flight, and I've already done that on here, and that's why we need the grey stamping blend to colour the birds in. So we'll do that and then set it aside. Bring in my cutting platform. So you need platform 1, platform 2, the thin die adapter, base plate, platform 3. Place my cardstock on there. I want the curvy wave in the lighter colour in Coastal Cabana, this squarish wave in Pacific Point, then a second platform 3 on top, and I'm ready to run that through the machine, so I'll do that off camera. These are the leftovers. Don't throw those away because you can use it for another project. I actually marked my die, this one to say it's smaller with the curve, and this one to say that it's the largest square. And I'm grabbing something, I'm in a hurry, I don't have to think. Next we want to run through the cardstock you need. 4 1/8 inches, which is 10.5 centimeters in Coastal Cabana, and you want to score it on the long side at 2 7/8 inches and at 5 3/4 inches. Burnish the score line. For the 2 inside panels here, you need these cut at 2 5/8 by 3 5/8. 2 in Pacific Point and 1 in Basic White, which is also 2 5/8 by 3 5/8. And then this piece on this side of the card is slightly larger in Pacific Point, and that's 2 7/8 by 3 5/8. For the metric, you need 4 pieces, all in 6.5 by 10 centimeters. 3 of them will be in Pacific Point and 1 in Basic White. So let's glue this down. I'm not going to glue the Basic White one down yet because last time I did, I stamped the sentiment crooked. So I'll leave that aside and glue this larger Pacific Point onto this side of the card. So I'll close that so I can make sure that it's stuck in the right position. So now we'll need the designer series paper, and these 2 have been cut at 2 3/8 by 3 5/8. Let's glue that down. Metric, you need 4 pieces of the designer series paper, all cut at 6 by 9.5 centimeters. It's only for the Imperial that this designer series paper is slightly larger for this side of the panel on the right side, and this measures 2 5/8 by 3 5/8. Actually, you know what? I'm going to finish the inside of this card, so I will glue this down, but I'll use my Stamparatus instead to make sure that it's stamped straight. I have cut myself a acetate sheet, which I use to put on top of my project as a tester, and then I can put my sentiment in the middle. Use a fairly dark ink, Pacific Point, to see if it's in the correct position. That looks pretty straight to me, and then I can check it against the grid paper here, and that is straight. So now I'm ready to stamp directly onto the cardstock. Ink up the stamp, make sure that's buttered up into the corner and there's no movement, and I can stamp. Set the base aside and stamp the wave this time. I'm going to ink it up and stamp it in Coastal Cabana. Insert a scrap piece of cardstock into the corner and stamp. The ink's not taken there, so I'm going to stamp it again. I've cleaned my stamp, and this time I'm going to ink it in Pacific Point and stamp over it. Now I'm going to trim this off. Going to fussy cut round the wave. Then I'm going to glue this piece onto the Pacific Point layer, leaving a border. I'm looking more to the narrow side where the wave is this side to make sure that there is 1/8 of an inch border on it. Then I'm going to cut that. Also a Coastal Cabana piece, 4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. And then glue this piece onto the Coastal Cabana piece, leaving an even border. And cut round this too. Now I'm going to butt up this piece so that it's flush with this edge, and I'm going to flip it over, hold on to it tight and make a mark so I know where the glue has to go. So I'm going to pop this alongside there so I can put adhesive, wet glue along this edge here, okay, and down the bottom. And then flip this over and only put adhesive on there. Then I can pop this on and make sure that the right side is flush with the end of the card and that's securely bonded. It's going to be quite thick on this side, and then I'll trim off any excess. Flip it over and then just rub over that side to make sure it's down properly. I've got a very sturdy background. Now I can glue these foil elements on top. So I'm going to peel off the backing from the Pacific Point foil, because this is the one with a square corner and it's the larger of the two. Then peel the one off the foil, which is the Coastal Cabana one, and don't pull too hard, be gentle with it because it is quite delicate, and then glue that one on top. Match up the corners. Now I can attach the rest of the elements, the seagulls and a mini cloud. I want to glue this cloud flat and place this one on dimensionals. Cut that in half. Remove the backing. Make sure this cloud isn't interfering with the fold. Stamp the pelican in basic grey. Colour the beak in saffron and just around the eyes. And I'll go and die cut this in the normal standard sandwich Pop dimensionals on the back. Might have to trim this down around where his head is. Remove the backing tape. Pop that just down here. There's a sentiment to do. Coastal Cabana ink, and I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday. Trim the Happy Birthday down. Apply adhesive to the back and pop this on a matte layer of Pacific Point, and then trim that down as well. Pop dimensionals on the back. Take the backing off, pop it onto the front of the card, like so. Last finishing touch, some rhinestones. Put one there, larger one here, and a medium-sized one down there. Before I go, here's some other samples I made. This one I actually did a double Z fold, simply stamped on all the sheets and did it in basic white, and double stamped there so you could see the difference between the Coastal Cabana and the Pacific Point. I actually took some ink off to get that effect. Or you can do an ordinary card. This one I used the 3D bark embossing folder and the stitch rectangle dies. I cut the designer series paper with the 3rd largest, I think, or 4th largest stitch rectangle die, and I used one of the smaller ones for the title. So that's a nice simple card. And for the inside I actually used marker pens rather than alcohol pens so that it wouldn't bleed through the back. So there you have it, the fun fold with Waves of the Ocean collection, which is available from 1st March to 2nd of May. All the links to the supplies are below this video in the Show More section. You can also find me on Facebook, Pinterest or Instagram. Thanks for watching. Bye.